In June 2018, Channels Television told the story of #EndSARS for the first time. The hashtag had become popular following increased reports of extrajudicial killing and police brutality. By then, the campaign was about a year old. A year later, in March 2019, Channels Television revisited the issue after 36-year-old Kolade Johnson was said to have been shot dead by 2 officers of the anti-cultism squad in Lagos. #EndSARS trended again. That matter is still in court. In 2020, this is the 3rd week special report is focusing on #EndSARS, and for good reasons too. This week, we bring you a story which happened 10 years ago and may be one of the events which has led to the explosion of the #EndSARS protest and, of course, suggestions on how to move forward. You're welcome. I'm Ini John Mekwa. Ganyu Street in Aboru area of Iyanapaja in Alimosho local government area of Lagos State may not look developed enough to comfortably house residents, but it's become a haven for a young woman who became a widow at 21. Special report comes to visit Mrs. Tumilola Olaiwala, who had to relocate here from where she was living with her husband in Maryland as one way to deal with the grief and agony of life after her husband was suddenly snatched from her life.
On that fateful day, I was at home and my sister called me on the 5th of December. When my sister called me that I should come to Shomolu. And I said, what is happening in Shomolu? That I've been calling my husband, he's not picking his call. He said I should just come. Then I just pick my son then. I just take my son then. We start going to Shomolu. On my way going, then I get to Onikman. I just saw crowd at the other side. I said, what is happening in Shomolu? Onikman bus stop. I just told the card man that she should please park. I want to come down. Then there is a lady be with me. He said I should not. It seems the lady have known everything. He said that he told the cab man that I should not come down. And I said I will come down. So on my way coming down, then crossing to the other side with my son, I just see everybody, my daddy, my sisters, my uncles, my cousins. I just said, what is happening here? Then on my way crossing, people are just owing me that I should not come. I said, why? Why won't I come? So my daddy just told me that something has happened. I said, what? Where is Femi? Where is Femi? Where is Femi? That was what happened. I just passed out. When I passed out, my daddy tried to wake me up. Everybody tried to wake me up. Then they told me, Femi is late. That he was shot by the police, DPO, Olosun police station. I said, why? I don't know what happened again till the next morning when I wake up in the hospital. Then I'm 2 months old pregnancy then. Then I was announced that my pregnancy has gone.
Femi Olaiwala, who was popular as Femi Best around Onikpan area of Lagos at about 2010, was said to have been driving back from an event with 3 other occupants, 2 ladies and a man, when he was shot.
When I heard about the late, then I asked my sister that, how did it happen? He said when they are coming from Mosho the day that very morning, around 5:30 to 6. So they just saw a vehicle coming behind them. They said the vehicle is flashing at that morning. They said, the Femi said he can't stop because it's too early in the morning, then it was somehow dark that he can't stop by this time at Jibo roundabout that you don't know the person that is. Then the car is tinted that he did not know the person that is flashing him. So he just went through. he just want to come through. Then she should get to Onikpan bus stop to run inside the police station to save her, is to save his life. But getting to the Onikpan bus stop, parking, then the man park at his back. He did not even allow him to get down from the back, from his car, before going straight to him and shoot him straight in multiple times on his head.
Losing a husband and an unborn baby in one day is a memory that Mrs. Olaiwala would have to live with for the rest of her life, especially having to explain the loss to her son.
It's not been easy. Sometimes, when I do cry most, when my son always misses that I do see it in him. That he wants to see somebody that we call his dad, his own dad. But nobody is there. Nobody.
The incident made it to the media and even caused the youths in the area at that time to lead a protest to the police station. Eventually, the accused officer was said to have been suspended, but Mrs. Olaiwala says she does not feel that her husband's death has been justified.
The compensation I would like anyone or the government to do for me is for my son, for his education, for a good, sound education.
10 years after, police brutality is still a topical issue and has been captured as #EndSARS. Names of individuals whose lives have been shortened in connection to this is easily accessed on social media. Youths took to the streets on the 7th of October with a common chant. The passion contagious. So the protests spread from Lagos, Abuja, Ogun, Oyo, Anambra, Ebonyi, all through the southern parts of the country, asking for the disbandment of the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, SARS.
What do we want?
The protests spread to the northern part too, but by then it had been customized to suit their needs. Theirs was end insecurity, and some even asked for SARS.
The reality of the South is not the reality of the North. I'm sure a lot of people have been picking a lot of fights with people, fellow citizens in the North about, oh, you're asking for reformation of SARS when we are saying SARS should end, despite the fact that these people have been committing atrocities and they have been living within the culture of impunity in our society to the point where people can't feel safe anymore in the society. But again, the truth is, people we in the South, we know what we have been through in the hands of impunity as perpetuated by the tactical squads generally. Talking about SARS, SACS, and SACS, whether it's special anti-robbery, special anti-cultism, special anti-kidnapping, and a whole lot of hybrids that they have in there. That is our reality, because that's what we see from this part. But in the North, I must say that they are actually working fine. They are the ones, they are not as idle as they are in this part, in the South. They are very hardworking in the North. They are keeping people safe in the North, working together with the agro rangers, to keep people safe. Even the street can actually handle, because they have the numbers and they are committed to the people. So with this, when you say end SARS from the South, you are telling the Northerners that you are ending their security situation. In other words, you are ending their protection. You are ending what brings them peace. You are ending what keeps them around. So that is one of the reasons why we need bridges right now. And what do I mean by bridges? We need to begin to meet ourselves at a point where we can see from each other's perspective.
The government responded by disbanding SARS on the 11th of October. 48 hours later, they announced the new formation, the Special Weapon Tactical Team, SWAT. But this did not satisfy the youths as the protests continued. Not even the acceptance of their 5 demands could get them off the protest grounds.
the youth came up with the 5/5 demands, and obviously you could see from the reaction of the Lagos State Governor, who actually took the pains physically, to come over to Abuja to speak with the president on these demands. Now, the challenge with protests like this is that it doesn't have any definite sequence or flow. Now, when people realized that they could make demands, other demands started coming. Now, if you look at these demands critically, those are genuine demands that every young person, every Nigerian has probably made in the comfort of his house or through his mobile device. And it was plain simple. So we have a culture of distrust that the system has brought in. Now, this culture of distrust cannot be solved by just making mere statements. Now, what people needed was a timeline, a definite timeline that speaks to, by XYZ time, this is what we should have achieved. By XYZ time, this is what we should have achieved. And when people didn't see that level of commitment from the government, they decided to remain on the street. And the more young people remained on the street, the more issues were still coming up. And there's a trust issue, there's a trust deficit in governance. And the trust issue is because government over time has not done its part in heeding to the request of its citizens.
The protest continued with pockets of violence reported, like the jailbreak in Edo State on the 19th of October, the burning of the police station at Orile Igonwo in Lagos on the 20th, and then the announcement of curfew started in affected states. That of Lagos was announced on Tuesday, the 20th of October for 4 p.m. and then adjusted to 9 p.m. Hours after the announcement, the nation and indeed the world had its eyes glued to social and traditional media platforms for an incident that would raise a lot of questions days after. Questions on why the light went off after men in military uniform arrived at the Lekki Toll Plaza. Who ordered them to be there? Were there fatalities? And much more continue to wait for answers.
We met so many
NSAS advocate Rinu Oduola was active at the gathering at Alausa Ikeja. She says the gathering, which started on October the 7th, also had a similar experience on the 8th of October when the group spent its second night at the gate of the Lagos State House of Assembly.
Something peculiar happened around 11 p.m. where, we already received reassurances from the Deputy Speaker, from the Chief of Staff, that we're permitted to sleep out there. That is not offense if we want to stay right in front of the National House of Assembly. But something happened at 11 p.m. where the policemen led by the Commissioner of Police, they came in vans, they came in trucks, they came fully geared with guns. They took down our tents, they took down our camping gear, they switched off the generator, they did so many things. They brought towing vehicles to throw away our cars. And most importantly, they switched off all the lights around the National Assembly. All the lights. It was switched off and we were harassed. We knelt down on the ground. We slept on the ground. For that night, we thought we were going to die. But I think agitations on social media, because right now at that moment we started tweeting, we started making live videos. It happened to us. We thought we were going to die that night. In fact, we recited the national anthem. We told people, we had people messaging their loved ones that they were going to die, because we had guns pointed at us. So each of us thought we were going to die, and all that was in my head was, well, if we're going to die for the nation, then let everybody just know this was what we died for. So until we started making, several live videos, and I don't know, so a switch just happened, then the speaker came outside and he ordered them to turn on the lights, meaning somebody actually told them to turn off those lights.
The Lagos State Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu, who visited some of the victims from the incident at the hospital, has promised that the unanswered questions would be pursued to a conclusive end.
It is imperative to explain that no sitting governor controls the rules of engagement of the military. I have nonetheless instructed an investigation into the ordered and the adopted rules of engagement employed by the officers and men of the Nigerian Army that were deployed to the Lekki toll gate last night. This is with a view to taking this up with the higher command of the Nigerian Army and to seek the intervention of Mr. President in his capacity as the Commander-in-Chief to unravel the sequence of events that happened yesterday night.
One of the benefits from the protest seems to be the creation of the Judicial Panel of Inquiry and Restitution to investigate cases of police brutality in various states, from Lagos, Delta, Anambra, Cross River, Nasarawa to almost all the states of the Federation. The panels are to work with members of the public in their state to collate individuals or groups wishing to testify or send their complaints for compensation and justice of victims of police brutality.
The petition we submitted to the CP, directed to the IGP, and the one we submitted at the State House of Assembly that was signed by the Speaker of the House, we actually included a judicial panel in it. And it's part of the process, yeah? It's part of what needs to be done, because as we're protesting, we're also ensuring that things are being done in the legal way. So it's good. The only thing is that those that are going to be on the judicial panel, what we should know and what we should fact check is that are there nobodies that can become somebodies without the help of nobody, like Aisha Yusuf would say.
We don't allow people to think for themselves. I feel that in all the states, one of the things that all the state government should do is to have a dialogue, with the young people in their states. Let the young people come with a charter of demands, beyond the charter of demands, because it looks to us that it's not just on police brutality, that the youths are talking about. I think they're talking about a much more holistic intervention, by the government. So I would expect that, because people are also talking about, let's take, for instance, some of the panels that the state judicial panels that the state had constituted. Some young people have also raised the fact that they are not, they didn't consult with them. This panel are not very inclusive. I know that, for example, Lagos had to increase the number of youths to 2. And if you take a look at all the other panels, they also have problems in, and that has to do with consultation.
The National Human Rights Commission is also paying close attention to this line of action. The Executive Secretary, Mr. Anthony Ojukwu, shares work already done in that regard.
We have advised government at all levels to take immediate action to start addressing the demands of the protesters. At our own level here, we have set up a panel of inquiry, a panel of investigation to look at complaints from SARS and any other members of the public. We are also working with Nigerian Bar Association to see how those who have genuine petitions can be assisted to package their petitions and also to represent them at the various panels of inquiry in all the states. These are immediate steps we are taking. And of course, we have also formed through the Stakeholders Forum five subcommittees that will look at all aspects of the recommendations of the presidential panel, whether it is that of recruitment, whether it is police salaries, whether it is police infrastructure, whether it is the standard operating procedures. There are subcommittees that are looking at all this. And we say that this is a process, it's not an event.
Meanwhile, more illegal actions were recorded in many states, from vandalism of government structure, media houses, commercial organizations were not spared. Then, after about 2 weeks after the protest started, the President, Muhammadu Buhari, gave in to the calls to speak to the people.
I would like to appeal to protesters to note and take advantage of the various well thought out initiatives of this administration designed to make their lives better and more meaningful, and resist the temptation of being used by some subversive elements to cause chaos with the aim of truncating our nascent democracy. For you to do otherwise will amount to undermining national security and the law and order situation. Under no circumstances will this be tolerated. I therefore call on our youth to discontinue the street protests and constructively engage government in finding solutions. Your voice has been heard loud and clear, and we are responding. The choice to demonstrate peacefully is a fundamental right of citizens as enshrined in Section 40 of our Constitution and other enactments. But this right to protest also imposes on the demonstrators the responsibility to respect the rights of other citizens and the necessity to operate within the law. As a democratic government, we listened to and carefully evaluated the 5-point demands of the protesters. And having accepted them, we immediately scrapped SARS and put measures in place to address the other demands of our youth. On approving the termination of SARS, I already made it clear that it was in line with our commitment to the implementation of extensive police reforms. Sadly, the promptness with which we have acted seemed to have been misconstrued as a sign of weakness and twisted by some for their selfish, unpatriotic interests. I am indeed deeply pained that innocent lives have been lost. These tragedies are uncalled for and unnecessary. Certainly, there is no way whatsoever to connect these bad acts to legitimate expression of grievance of the youth of our country.
But even this has generated a lot of criticism.
On the president's speech, I think we expected more from the speech. The speech actually failed to address the cogent issues, rather than a little bit of sympathy, which we feel that the speech should have actually gone further, in addressing one, ensuring that justice is seen as done, in the real sense. There's been a lot of talk about killings of innocent protesters. You have seen the UN, the UN and other countries, ECOWAS, had actually appealed to the president, former presidents and all of that, had actually tried to appeal to the president to address the issue. So I would have expected that the president would have demand for accountability, would have joined the country and the world to demand for accountability. You should have assured us about ensuring, that accountability is seen, as done. We would have expected that the president would have talked about constituting a high-level panel, of inquiry, like a truth commission, to find out about what even happened during the protest. There's been a lot of allegation of killings and all of that, then would have expected that the president would have made a more definite promise about, addressing the issue of police reforms in this country. The question of police reform didn't start yesterday. We have had several reports, suggesting to the president, of different times of what to do with respect to the police. So one would have expected that the president would have spoken to that, to say that we're going to review some of the reports that we already have, and we are going to constitute a panel that will take a thorough, look at the problems with the police, then, link, this issue also to the issue of governance and a whole lot of other things.
As the government and the youths take stock of the pros and cons of the protest, there are messages and lessons which seem glaring from the period, lessons which many hope would make a positive impact in the country. The right to protest belongs to all, but of course, without violence and infringing on other people's rights. On the other hand, it seems the demands from the youths to the government include increased communication and inclusion, because after all, they should learn how to lead today so that they could be effective leaders tomorrow. That's it for this episode of the program. Talk to us on Twitter and on our email. I'm Ini John McQuarrie.